My friend, purpose is not a luxury, it is your responsibility. And I came here today with a divine burden because your future is not just at stake, it's under attack. There is a warning echoing through the corridors of your life, a subtle spiritual alarm. And most people are too busy, too distracted, too numb to hear it. But you must not ignore this one, because your destiny depends on it. Every divine destiny comes with a dangerous distraction. It is one of the most subtle and underestimated truths in the journey of purpose. When God assigns you to greatness, the enemy doesn't always come with a sword. He often comes with a suggestion. He knows he cannot steal what God has ordained, but he can delay it, dilute it, or derail it by pulling your attention in the wrong direction. Distractions are not always evil. That's what makes them so dangerous. They are often good things sent at the wrong time, to the wrong place, in the wrong spirit. They look harmless, even helpful, until you realize they have stolen your focus. The devil doesn't need to destroy you outright if he can simply keep you busy with what does not matter. And that's exactly how many destinies are lost, not in rebellion but in preoccupation. Look at your life right now. What has your attention? What do you think about when you lie down at night? What consumes your time, your energy, your creativity? Whatever has your attention has your future. You become what you behold. If your focus is fractured, your future will be too. When God gives you a calling, He gives you instructions that require intimacy and focus. But the enemy knows if he can just make you scroll a little longer, chase someone else's approval, argue over pointless drama, or stay emotionally attached to something God told you to let go of, he can keep you distracted just long enough to make you miss the moment. Remember, the greatest threats to your future don't always come with a loud noise. They creep in through inconsistency, a small compromise here, a little delay there, a slight misalignment in your priorities. Suddenly, what started as a minor distraction becomes a permanent detour. Samson wasn't destroyed by the Philistines. He was distracted by Delilah. David wasn't taken out by a sword. It was a moment of misplaced attention on a rooftop. Distraction is the assassin of destiny. It doesn't have to kill you. It only has to make you slow down long enough to miss your timing. Many people think they are waiting on God, but in reality, God is waiting on them, waiting for them to come back to the place of clarity, the place of obedience, the place where their attention is aligned with their assignment, because your divine assignment requires undivided attention. You cannot carry greatness with a divided mind. You cannot carry spiritual authority while being mentally entangled in worldly distractions. Every time God gets ready to elevate you, the enemy gets ready to entertain you. He sends something to keep you from noticing what season you're in. You miss the moment because you're watching the wrong thing, chasing the wrong person, fighting the wrong battle. You're listening to voices that feed your ego instead of your spirit. And here's the hard truth. What pulls your attention is often what prevents your ascension. That relationship you keep going back to, that job God told you to leave, that habit you excuse, that lifestyle that no longer fits your calling. These are not just random delays. They are strategic distractions. And until you confront them, you will keep repeating cycles instead of entering seasons. Distraction doesn't just pull you away from purpose, it pulls you away from God's voice. And when you can't hear clearly, you can't move correctly. Destiny is not a game of trial and error. It is a path that requires discernment. You cannot afford to play with your focus in this season. The easiest way to miss destiny is to ignore the signs. God, in His mercy, always speaks before He moves. He warns before He withholds. He signals before He shifts. But the tragedy is that most people don't miss their calling because they were never chosen. They miss it because they were never paying attention. The signs were there, but their spirit was too dull, their mind too busy, and their heart too stubborn to respond. Divine signs rarely come with flashing lights and loud sirens. They are subtle, quiet, personal. They speak through discomfort, through a closed door, through the uneasiness in your gut that something is off. They show up in repeated patterns, unusual delays, unshakable convictions, or even the silence of heaven. Sometimes the absence of peace is the sign. But when your life is cluttered with noise, when your schedule is too full and your soul is too distracted, you'll miss what God is trying to say. God is not silent. He's strategic. He speaks through the word. He speaks through people. He speaks through moments, through pain, through patterns. You don't need another prophecy. You need to pay attention to the one He already gave you. Some of us are asking for new direction when we haven't responded to the last instruction. It's not that God hasn't spoken. It's that we didn't want to hear what He said. Ignoring the signs doesn't make them go away. It only ensures you'll walk blindly into consequences. God loves you too much to let you walk into a storm without sending a warning. But He won't force you to listen. That's the danger. You can train your heart to become numb to His voice. Every time you silence conviction, delay obedience, or explain away your inner prompting, you teach your spirit to ignore heaven. Over time, the signs don't stop. You just stop noticing them. Think of Jonah. The sign was clear, go to Nineveh. But his preference led him elsewhere. And what was the result? A storm, a crisis, a reset. Not because God hated him, but because God loved him too much to let him succeed in the wrong direction. Jonah didn't need a miracle. He needed to obey the warning, and so do you. God gives warnings to reroute you, not to punish you. He's trying to protect you from wasting years, relationships, energy, and potential. But we often mislabel God's signals. We call it pressure when it's really preparation. We call it rejection when it's divine redirection. We call it delay when it's mercy holding us back from disaster. Your ability to read spiritual signs determines the speed of your destiny. The faster you obey, the faster you advance. Delay is not always demonic. Sometimes it's self-inflicted. God says move, but you're still waiting. God says let go, but you're still holding on. God says step out, but you're still standing still. And all the while the signs keep flashing, but you scroll past them, sleep through them, or drown them out with busyness. Destiny is not only about hearing God, it's about recognizing when He's speaking. You must train your spirit to discern. Don't just look for signs that confirm your comfort. Look for signs that challenge your compromise. Real signs often offend the flesh but awaken the soul. They don't always feel good, but they will always lead to what is good. God is not obligated to repeat Himself. He can. but He doesn't have to. That's why sensitivity is your greatest weapon. The more aware you are, the more aligned you'll be. The people who fulfill purpose are not the most gifted, they're the most attentive. They notice the nudge, they recognize the shift. They don't need a breakdown to finally pay attention. They move at the whisper, not just the earthquake. Your future is hidden in today's instructions. This is one of the greatest principles of divine destiny and one of the most ignored. We often look ahead, dreaming of platforms, breakthroughs, influence, and fulfillment, while neglecting the simple instructions right in front of us. But God never promotes a person based on desire. He promotes based on obedience. Not to what's next, but to what's now. God hides the future in small moments of obedience. He doesn't hand out destiny in one dramatic moment. He unfolds it through everyday decisions. The future you're praying for is locked inside the instructions you've been avoiding. You don't graduate into purpose, you grow into it, one act of obedience at a time. When God gives you a prompting, pray, forgive, give, speak, walk away, wait. He is testing your sensitivity. He's not just trying to move you forward, He's trying to measure your capacity. If you cannot follow a whisper, you will never carry a mandate. Heaven does not trust you with nations until you can obey in secret. If you're too proud to follow quiet instruction, you are not ready for public elevation. Every instruction God gives is a seed, and how you handle it determines what kind of harvest you will receive. Many people are asking God for more while ignoring what He already said. You don't need more revelation, you need more application. Your next level is not a mystery. It's a matter of obedience. If you would do what God told you the last time, He would reveal what's next this time. Look at Scripture. Moses was told, strike the rock. Joshua was told, march around the wall. Naaman was told, dip 7 times. None of these instructions made sense, but all of them were keys to breakthrough. If they had hesitated, argued, or delayed, they would have missed their moment. God doesn't need your understanding, He needs your submission. We want to be trusted with nations, but can God trust you with your neighbor? We want to impact millions, but can God trust you to be faithful with the one assignment He gave you today? You can't ask for a future you're not willing to prepare for. And preparation doesn't begin with opportunities. It begins with obedience. Sometimes God will ask you to do things that feel beneath you. He'll tell you to serve when you want to be seen. He'll tell you to be silent when you want to speak. He'll tell you to stay hidden when you're ready to be known. Why? Because He is shaping you for what you cannot yet see. And what you do with those instructions tells heaven whether you're ready or not. Delayed obedience is still disobedience, and partial obedience is rebellion dressed up in religious behavior. You cannot bargain with God's voice. You can't say, I'll do it when it makes sense, or I'll do it when I'm ready. That's not obedience. That's control. And God doesn't partner with control. He partners with surrender. Every day God is handing you pieces of your future, but they come disguised as inconvenience, discomfort, or discipline. That morning prompting to pray, that nudge to bless someone, that quiet urge to delete the distraction. These are not small things. They are spiritual building blocks. Each one is heaven testing you, asking, can I trust you with more? If you ignore today's instruction, you disqualify yourself from tomorrow's assignment. Destiny doesn't begin when the spotlight turns on. It begins in the secret place, when nobody is watching, but heaven is taking notes. What you do with God's voice today reveals what He can trust you with tomorrow. Disobedience doesn't just delay destiny, it redefines it. This truth is heavier than most are willing to admit, because we've grown comfortable with the idea that grace erases consequences. But grace is not a substitute for obedience. God's love is unconditional, but His promises are not. There are things God has spoken over your life that are time-sensitive, obedience-dependent, and spiritually contingent. When you ignore divine warnings, you don't just slow down the journey. You risk arriving at a completely different destination. God does not operate on your timeline. He operates on your obedience. He's not waiting on your convenience. He's waiting on your surrender. Every time you reject an instruction, you reroute your future. You may still be breathing, still moving, still active, but that doesn't mean you're still aligned. You can have a life full of motion and still be miles away from your original mission. The sobering reality is that you can still function while being out of position. You can still preach, sing, lead, build, and succeed, and yet be walking in a version of your life God never authored. Just because something is working doesn't mean it's aligned. There are many people who have settled into what looks like blessing, but it's actually just the result of God giving them what they insisted on. And when God stops resisting your rebellion, it's not always a reward, it's sometimes a judgment. When King Saul disobeyed God's instruction regarding the Amalekites, it wasn't just a mistake. It was the moment his destiny was redefined. God didn't just delay his reign, He replaced him. The calling didn't disappear, but it transferred to someone else who was willing to obey. Saul was still king in position, but David was already king in God's mind. Because God does not tolerate continual disobedience from those He intends to elevate. You can lose your original assignment by insisting on your own agenda. That's why divine warnings are not suggestions, they are lifelines. When God gives you a warning, it's not because He's trying to scare you, it's because He's trying to spare you. But when you treat His voice lightly, you turn a divine opportunity into a personal detour. The pain is not always in what you did, it's in what you missed because you wouldn't listen. Many people think, I'll get it right later, not realizing that later is not promised. Opportunities in the kingdom are not always recycled. Some doors once closed don't reopen, some assignments once rejected are handed to another. Yes, God is merciful. But mercy does not cancel the consequences of your choices. God can still use you, but not always in the way He originally intended. You may end up in Nineveh like Jonah, but not without going through the storm and the belly of the fish. That wasn't the original route. That was a redirected mercy. And even in that mercy there was loss of time, loss of peace, loss of spiritual clarity. That's the hidden cost of disobedience. It doesn't always take you out, but it takes something from you. There's a version of your life that exists only on the other side of obedience. And when you ignore divine instruction, you give that version permission to die. You start walking in a version of your story shaped by compromise instead of conviction. A life built on recovery instead of alignment. God can still use you, but it may not be the you He originally called. Destiny doesn't chase you, it waits for your alignment. It doesn't run after you trying to force itself into your life. It stands fixed, steady, unmoved, waiting for you to become the person who can carry the weight of what you've seen in your spirit. God shows you the end, the outcome, the vision, but He rarely shows you the version of yourself required to fulfill it. That part you have to become. God will never give you a future you're not prepared to sustain. He doesn't release blessing where there's no capacity. He doesn't open doors where there's no discipline. He doesn't elevate people who refuse to mature. The dreams He gave you are not false, but they are conditional. You must grow into the character that matches the calling. You must develop the mindset, the humility, the discipline, and the purity to handle what you've asked Him for. The truth is, God won't give you a throne if you're still thinking like a slave. He won't hand you influence if you still crave validation. He won't give you leadership if you're still led by your emotions. Destiny doesn't arrive when you feel ready. It manifests when you are ready. And readiness isn't about feelings, it's about alignment. It's about being in sync with God's timing, His values, His priorities. You cannot walk in divine destiny while living out of carnal identity. God is not building your future on your preferences. He's building it on your obedience. If you're not willing to be shaped, you're not ready to be sent. If you're not willing to let go of the version of yourself that survived, you'll never step into the version of yourself that's called to lead. Destiny demands death, the death of pride, ego, comfort, and old thinking. It requires a full surrender to the process of becoming. There is a version of you that can carry nations. There is a version of you that walks in authority, speaks with clarity, loves without insecurity, and moves without fear. But that version doesn't come by accident. It comes by alignment. It comes through submission, pruning, correction, and growth. You don't wake up in destiny, you grow into it, daily, intentionally, obediently. When God gives you a glimpse of your future, He's not teasing you. He's training you. He shows you what's possible, then watches to see how you respond to the process. Will you compromise? Will you shortcut it? Will you pretend you're ready before you really are? Or will you surrender, serve, and stretch until your character matches your calling? Some people keep praying for breakthrough when what they really need is to break agreement with their old self. God is not going to deliver a future to someone who's still loyal to a past mindset. You have to align spiritually, emotionally, relationally. You can't keep asking for purpose while clinging to people, places, and patterns that contradict it. You can't expect to live a high calling while making low decisions. Alignment is not passive, it's intentional. It means checking your attitude, watching your habits, guarding your heart, saying no to distractions, saying yes to discipline, honoring God when nobody's watching. It's those quiet, unseen acts of alignment that unlock public displays of purpose. Destiny doesn't happen because of one big moment. It happens through consistent, daily agreement with God's process. Until you become the version of yourself that's worthy of what you saw, heaven will hold it back, not because God is punishing you, but because He's protecting what's precious. Destiny is too sacred to be delivered to someone who is still double-minded. When you align, things move. When you align, heaven responds. Destiny isn't waiting on a new opportunity, it's waiting on a new you. Every warning is a doorway to wisdom or a road to regret. God never speaks just to be heard. He speaks to protect, to redirect, and to elevate. Every divine warning comes with a choice: to yield and grow or to resist and suffer. The moment you hear that inner check, that quiet tug, that clear instruction that makes your flesh uncomfortable, that's not just conviction, it's an opportunity. You're standing at the crossroads between wisdom and regret, and what you choose to heed today will decide who you become tomorrow. Warnings are not signs of judgment, they are expressions of mercy. They are heaven's way of saying, don't go there, don't trust them, don't stay in that place, don't keep feeding that habit. They are God's voice stepping in to interrupt your destruction before it becomes visible. And the greatest tragedy is not the storm that came without warning. It's the storm that came after the warning you ignored. God's most powerful lessons are often embedded in the things He tried to stop you from doing. But if you override His voice, whether out of pride, fear, or stubbornness, you're not just breaking divine instruction, you're building a future you'll eventually want to escape. Regret is often the fruit of disobedience harvested too late. And it's not because God wasn't clear, it's because you weren't willing to yield. Every person you admire for their wisdom, maturity, or spiritual authority has one thing in common: they listened to the warnings. They didn't learn everything through experience, because experience is often the most painful teacher. They learned by obedience. They didn't need to lose it all before they got it. They didn't need to suffer publicly before they matured privately. Why? Because they chose wisdom over ego. But many people are drawn to regret because they romanticize rebellion. They wait until the loss is irreversible, until the damage is done, until the tears are flowing to finally say, God, I wish I had listened. But heaven is not obligated to restore what you were warned not to destroy. God will redeem, yes, but redemption is not the same as restoration. Sometimes you survive it, but you don't get all of it back. That's the cost of ignoring the warning. Wisdom, on the other hand, is always available to the humble. The person who says, Lord, if you're speaking, I'm listening. Even if I don't like it, even if I don't understand it, even if it costs me, that person gains more than information. They gain revelation. They start to see what others miss. They walk in timing others envy. They bypass pitfalls others fall into, not because they were smarter, but because they were sensitive. Every warning is a gift wrapped in discomfort. It doesn't always feel good, but it will always do good. Warnings don't come to hurt you. They come to shape you. They come to stretch you, to cut away what cannot go with you into the next season. And the quicker you obey, the lighter you walk. The longer you delay, the heavier the price becomes. God doesn't raise powerful people who are perfect. He raises those who are responsive. The moment you sense His correction, don't debate it, don't delay it, don't dress it up with excuses. Move, repent, realign. Because that one decision may be the line between stepping into your future or stumbling into regret. The version of you that walks in destiny is the version that learns to take divine warnings seriously, not casually, not emotionally, but spiritually, decisively, and consistently. What you listen to today is what leads you tomorrow. And what you ignore today is what will define you tomorrow. Let me leave you with this. Your destiny is not an accident. It is a divine assignment, authored by eternity and written with your name on it. But you will never step into it casually. You will never fulfill it by emotion, opinion, or convenience. You must align. You must obey. You must become. Heaven has already released the blueprint. Now it's watching your response. The warning you hear today is not just correction. It is a confirmation that God still wants to use you. He is still speaking. He is still guiding. But you must decide. Will you be distracted or will you be determined? Will you repeat the cycle or will you rise to the calling? The future is not waiting for your perfection, it's waiting for your submission. The greatest tragedy in life is not death, it is life without purpose, and purpose without fulfillment. Don't let that be your story. Obey now, align now, choose wisdom now, because your destiny is too valuable, too divine, and too dangerous to delay one more day.